Hey, SuperPolythiest, it's Blue Fire Witch making a response back to you. First, I wanted to say I never forced you to make a video. I asked you because you seem to be tired of making comments on my video. I was certainly tired of you making comments on my video. And as I said previously, this is YouTube. If you don't want to make comments in a video, I don't do PM debates, and I'll tell you why. I think that if you have an opinion or a judgment to make about somebody else's beliefs or how they're doing something, then you need to make that publicly. Doing it in private message is, obviously the absence of publicness. You have basically the anonymity and privacy to say whatever you want to somebody, and then it's very hard for them to prove that you ever said that. In a video, you have to make yourself public, and so therefore, other people have the right to disagree with you as well. It's a better way to debate. It's a more honest way to debate, and that's why I insist on video responses. Now, I did insist that your sources be scholarly sources, but I also thought that it would be an obvious thing that your sources also be relevant. Marcel Mauss admittedly did not study ancient Greece in his study of magic and witchcraft. In fact, most of his observations came from a completely different continent in Australia. And so he's hardly really a relevant source. Furthermore, he goes further to contradict himself and suggest that in ancient Greece there were magical cults and people who practice magic, and that pretty much proves my point. Now, as I said in my PM, I didn't consider your source to be one that was recognized by most people who were scholars on the subject. And I did find a scholarly source to back that up. Malcolm Rule, who writes for the Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain in Ireland, wrote a book review on Marcel Mauss's book, A General Theory of Magic. And in that, he mentions that the essay that he wrote was not first published. And he goes further to say that it was not first published because most people didn't agree with his observations and his definition of magic. I can, however, quote you several sources that show that magic was practiced in Athens and in ancient Greece, and wasn't even made illegal or looked down upon by most of the public. And there's several sources on that. Further, you'll see that Mauss's definition, which is not a scholarly definition that's held by many, is a definition that basically defines magic as anything that's not religious. So therefore, he would define magic as irreligious because that's part of its essential definition as far as Mauss is considered. But that's not how most people consider. In fact, most magical practitioners are religious and consider their magic to be part of their religious experience. Now, the easiest way to show how Mauss is wrong and how you are wrong on the subject is to show some practical examples of how magic was used in ancient Greece. I found an article, a scholarly article, that reviews a book called Magic in the Ancient Greek World by Derek Collins. The review is written by Warner Rees from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, somebody in my neck of the woods. The second paragraph is very telling. It talks about Homeric verses torn out of their original context are dealt with in chapter 4. They were employed in obstetrics and gynecology and put to use against intoxication, choking, and gout, and served also as divinatory purposes. Now, of course, the ancient Hellenes did make a difference between magic and mysticism. Mysticism would be divinatory purposes, so I just wanted to say that that is a little bit out of the classical definition of magic. Let's see. These ritual uses were subsequently reinforced by Neoplatonic theurgy. A final chapter looks on how society reacted to magic by means of legislation. Collins traces the repercussions of Greek magic through later epochs and should be congratulated for including the developments brought by Roman lawgivers. As far as we know, Athenians only cracked down on magic that entailed murder. The Romans were deeply influenced by Greek practices but felt differently about magic. From the 12 Tables' narrow concept of what constituted black magic, the definition was broadened and increasingly criminalized to that point from Apuleius on. So in other words, magic didn't become really criminalized until the Romans took over, which was, of course, after the Hellenic era of Greece. The Athenians, like it says here, only cracked down on magic that entailed murder. And of course, I don't. I believe that murder should be um, prosecuted as well. You know, whether it's magical or non-magical. So here we see that not only was magic, you know, not a crime in Athens, but they also recognized and condoned magic as long as it wasn't harming anyone, which of course is the same type of magic that I condone. Okay, so I've shown that historically the ancient Greeks practiced magic. And not only that, but they practiced magic legally, so it was part of society, it wasn't illegal. Further, I'd like to point out that in the modern age in which we live, there are several religions which employ magic and consider magic to be a religious practice. Just a few of those would be Wicca, Thelema, and of course, Neo-Hellenism. So as we can see practically, magic is part of religion, both in the ancient days and now. So I've shown both practically and historically how religion exists along with magic, and especially in the Greek religion. And also, now I'd like to talk about it from a logical perspective as well. You seem to have a really wrong idea of what magic is. Magic, simply put, is the art of being able to create change. And most modern magicians will tell you that that change comes from the idea of divine will. In other words, it's ordained by the gods. You know, we have the ability to do things for ourselves. And magic is no more unethical than getting yourself a drink of water. I mean, if you think that magic is somehow usurping the power of the gods, then how do we have that power to begin with to create change? Now, it's one thing if you're trying to steal power or do some sort of ritual to you know, do something impious to the gods. That's completely different. But you know, you're not stealing power from the gods by doing magic because you have that power within you. In fact, everybody does magic. You do magic as well. Every single time you do an intentful action, you're putting magical energy behind that action. And so therefore, magic is not only, or should not only be allowed, but under that context should be understood and studied because, after all, under the maxims of Delphi, we are supposed to seek out wisdom, which is what witchcraft is all about, seeking out wisdom and understanding things. Witchcraft is not just magic. It's about understanding the universe, as I said in my last video. So therefore, the practice of magic should be understood by everyone who wants to seek out wisdom. As a neo-Hellenist and not a Reconstructionist, I'd like to say that our beliefs are inspired by ancient Greece. We do take most of our beliefs from ancient Greece. However, we believe that religion and connecting with deity is most important, and it's more important than historical accuracy. So in other words, if we find something that's not relevant or logical to our beliefs, we have no problem discarding that, whether it came from ancient Greece or not. Furthermore, we feel the need, we also get inspired by beliefs from other cultures, although we bring that into a Hellenic context, just like the ancient Greeks did. They had a lot of beliefs that didn't start out as being Greek, but they brought them into a Greek context. Same with a lot of cultural aspects as well. You know, if you study any kind of, you know, classical history, you'll see that. Anyway, so we're continuing to do what the ancient Greeks did, which is, you know, be inspired by other cultures. And I believe that if there was a continuation of the Greek religion, you'd see a lot more of that. And so we're just basically doing what we feel the ancient Greeks would have done. You know, and because of that, you know, we employ logic and we seek out wisdom. And, you know, like I said, you know, understanding magic is all about seeking out wisdom. And implementing that is simply only, you know, helping yourself instead of always having to rely on the gods. I mean, you wouldn't ask the gods to get you a glass of water, you know, and the same with, you know, you need to go out there and do things for yourself. That includes employing magical ability. You know, everybody has that ability and they have the ability to use it, you know, and that's what people do. Anyway, So it doesn't matter if you, even if you were to find some sort of source that said that the ancient Greeks didn't allow magic, which I don't think you're going to, because I just showed you one that did. Um, if you were to find that, it wouldn't make any relevance to what the modern era is doing now anyways, because we understand magic in a different context, don't we? We have a lot more understandings of things that the ancients didn't, and we shouldn't be forced to think about things the way the ancients did just because we happen to believe in their gods. No, in fact, we should be seeking out wisdom, as the maxims say. You know, if you really think about what the ancient Greek religion is and what, being a Hellenic polytheist is, to me at least, seeking out wisdom and employing logic and religion is one of the most, basic tenets. And so, we have to follow that first. Anyway, if you don't want to make another video, that's fine. I just don't do debate in PM. So if you want to respond to me, the only response that I'll take is maybe a couple comments or another video response. All right, thanks. Bye.